to another episode of the Jarring Science Club. I'm your host, Brenda, and today we're going to be working on processes that shape the Earth by making an erosion model. We are going to be using candy to test whether erosion happens faster in soft or hard materials, and whether or not moving water can speed up the process of erosion. Here's what you're going to need. 4 jars filled up with the same amount of water. I've used 1 cup of water in each of my jars. You'll need lids for 2 of your jars. You'll need 2 pieces of soft candy and 2 pieces of hard candy. All right, let's get to it. All right, I zoomed in here so we can do our experiment up close. So first you're gonna put out your jars all in a row. Now before you do anything else, make sure you find a timer. I'm gonna be using my phone. You'll want the stopwatch setting. Then you're gonna unwrap all your candies so you can drop them all in at the same time. So there's 2 things we're going to be testing in this experiment. Whether the soft candy or the hard candy erodes faster, and then whether shaking the jar versus not shaking the jar causes the candy to erode faster. So unwrap the candies. All right, so here are our 2 hard and our 2 soft candies. We're going to drop them into the jar all at the same time and then start the timer. So first we'll drop in the hard ones, and then the soft ones. Then I'm starting my timer. I'm going to put the lids on the jars I'm planning to shake, which are these 2. Now I'm going to set my static jars to the side so I leave room for shaking. Okay, here are the jars we're going to shake. First, let's do the soft one. Timer is going over here. Look at those little pieces floating in there. That broke apart quite a bit. That was 1 minute. Now I'm going to see what 1 minute of shaking the hard candy can do to it. One thing to note that if your jar lid is at all loose, it's going to leak, so make sure you get it on really tight. Here's our hard candy after a minute. It's broken apart into 2 big pieces, and there's quite a lot of red color in the jar. So let's check in on our static jars. Let's check in on our static jars and see how they're doing after a minute. Here's the hard candy. The water is still clear. There's a little bit of the candy dissolving at the very bottom of the jar, which may be hard to see on camera. But most of the jar at the top is completely clear, so it has not taken away much of the candy at all. It's in one piece and pretty much looks exactly the same as when we first dropped it in. And then here's the hard candy. That ridge actually started that way. The chocolate just came out when I opened the wrapper, so that hasn't come off. You can see because the water's so clear that not very much of the Reese's has dispersed into the jar. So the moving water eroded the candy much faster, which is what we hypothesized. We thought that moving water and physical shaking of an object would make erosion happen faster, and it did. So here's the shaken hard candy again, and the shaken chocolate candy. You can see how much difference there is when you hold them up together like this. There's a big difference in how much they eroded during that time. And here's the difference in the hard candy. Here's the science. There are 5 main ways that the Earth gets shaped through external factors: erosion, glaciers, wind, plate tectonics, and volcanoes. In this experiment, we focused on erosion. The process of erosion is when sediment is carried away by some other factor. Erosion is typically caused by water, wind, or ice. Some people get confused between what the difference is between erosion and weathering. The difference between weathering and erosion is that in weathering, it is a chemical breakdown of the item, whereas an erosion is like a physical wearing away of a surface or object. Erosion can often occur on its own through normal processes of the Earth's seasons and changes in the Earth, but a lot of erosion is also influenced by humans. Things like farming, deforestation, construction, and the building of roads can often increase erosion in an area in an unnatural way. Over time, too much human involvement can cause erosion to get to such a point where it upsets the ecosystem of an area. There are a lot of different things that can cause erosion to occur. Rain is a big factor of erosion. Water can cause materials to swell and change shape, which can then displace objects and make them more likely to cause erosion. The heat from the sun can also cause erosion in a way by drying out and cracking soil, which can cause it to move locations, or by killing grass that's holding soil in place. Lakes and rivers often cause erosion when they wind through rocky areas. Some of the biggest canyons in the world were caused by erosion that occurred over millions of years. In our experiment, we tested whether shaking a jar would cause the candy to erode faster than just leaving it in the jar. The reason that the jars that you shook eroded the candy faster is because the water was moving, which caused the molecules to break apart faster. The candy was also hitting the sides of the jar, which physically wore down the candy faster. Make sure to log back into the member portal after you've completed your experiment to answer the quiz questions. That's it for today. See you next time.